Hi, welcome. We are going to be talking about graphing using slope-intercept form. This is from your Algebra 1 Quarter 2 notebook. Page 16 is where we are starting. So, what is slope-intercept form? I can graph this line by thinking about the following. Y equals mx plus b. I'm going to just write that down here. Y equals mx plus b. M equals the slope of the line, which is, of course, the change in y over the change in x. B equals the y-intercept, and that is where a line crosses the y-axis. So I can very simply graph this line using that information. If I look at this particular equation in slope-intercept form, I can see that the slope equals 2. And I can see that the y-intercept equals 1. So how do I interpret that? If slope is the change in y over the change in x, I have a 2. And of course, I can make any whole number a fraction by putting a 1 under it. I know that this is the value of y when x equals 0. So I know x will equal 0 and y equals 1. So I have a point at 0, 1. So the first thing you want to do is graph 0, 1, your y-intercept. Now I'm going to use my slope to find other points. So this is telling me I need to go, I want a positive 2. So I could go up 2, right 1, or be flexible in your thinking. Another way I can get a positive 2 is to go down 2, that's a negative 2, and left 1, negative 1. So let's do up 1, 2, over 1, and for this I'm going to go down 1, 2, left 1. And this gives me 3 nice points that I can now graph my line with. Now I have to admit to you that when I updated this notebook, I don't know why I put this here. But since we've just graphed put 3 points, I'll put 0, 1. I'll put 1, 1, 2, 3. And I'll put negative 1, negative 1. And it looks like actually, I'm going to just rewrite this really quickly. So bear with me here. I have a thought. I am going to rewrite this just from left to right. So negative 1, 0, 1, 1, 3. And this helps me see the pattern. So I'm going up by 1, and then this is going up by 2. So the pattern sticks. All right. We are going to now take a look at the bottom of page 16. It says to identify the slope and the y-intercept. B, for each equation, be sure to rewrite it in slope-intercept form first. So my first is clearly in y equals mx plus b. I'll just write that. So my slope is 2, and my b is negative 10. Let's take a look here. It looks like my slope is negative 3, and when there is no b, my b is 0. This particular line will cross at the origin. This is not in slope-intercept form. I need to isolate the y, so I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. And I will get y equals negative 3x plus 5. My slope is negative 3, and my y-intercept, or b, is 5. Now this is a little trickier. I'm going to use that idea of division distribution, and I am going to rewrite this so it's y equals negative x over 3 plus 6 over 3. Now I'm going to put a 1 here, and I'm going to look at this fraction, and I'm going to rewrite it so the fraction is separate. I'm going to pull out the fraction here, and 6 divided by 3 is 2. So I can clearly see my slope is negative 1/3 and my b, or y-intercept, is 2. And the reason you can do this is because if you think about it, negative 1 times x divided by 3 is the same thing here. This would be negative 1 times x divided by 3. Alrighty, y equals 2. So it looks like there's no slope, right? And I know this is a horizontal line, so I would have all my x, my slope would be 0 because there is no x. So that is telling me that my m is 0 because 0 times anything is 0. And this crosses the y-axis at 2. I'm going to rewrite this into slope-intercept form. I'm going to subtract x from both sides. I get 4y equals negative x plus 4. Now I'm going to divide both sides by 4. I'm going to divide by 4 each term, so I get y equals, again, I'll put a 1 here, and I'm going to separate the fraction, plus 1. So my slope is negative 1/4, and my intercept is 1. Let's take a look at our next page. And in this particular problem, we are going to do the following. We're going to rewrite each equation in slope-intercept form if necessary. We're going to graph b, then we're going to use the slope, and we're going to give another point, and then we're going to draw a line. So I know that m equals 2/3. That means I'm going up and right, or down and left. So just remember, I need positive, positive, so it could be a negative over negative is also positive. B equals 2, so I know this is where it crosses. So let's go up 2. 1, 2 over 3. 1, 2, 3. I can also go down 2. 1, 2, left, 1, 2, 3. I like 3 points. I feel like it makes a bit of a better line when I'm doing slope-intercept. And now I'm going to graph my line. Alrighty. Let's take a look at number 2. This is almost in y equals mx plus b, but I am going to rewrite it. So I get y equals negative 5x plus 4. Now I can clearly see that my slope is negative 5 and my b is 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And it looks like I need to go down 5, right 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right 1. 1, 2, 3. It's not going to fit, so I can't get my 3 points on this one. And sometimes you just have to say that's okay. Here we go. To now add my arrows. And voila. Number 2 is graphed. Why don't you give numbers 3 and 4 a try on your own? Pause the video and then turn the video back on after you're done to see if you got them right. Okay, let's just take a quick look. I did need to rewrite number 3 by subtracting 3x, and I'm going to end up with a negative y. So I need to divide all terms by negative 1. 0 divided by negative 1, of course, is 0, so I'm not going to rewrite that, but negative 3 divided by negative 1 is a positive 3. This tells me that my b equals 0 because there is not a number there. And it tells me that my slope is 3. I'll put it over 1. So I can go up 3 to the right 3, or negative 3 over negative 1 is also a positive 3 down left. And you can see I did that. I started at 0, 0, went up 3 over 1, down 3 to the left 1. Now, in this equation, I am in slope-intercept form. I know I have my y-intercept of 3, so I plotted 3 on the y-axis. X equals 3, y equals 0, x equals 3. Now, with a negative slope in fraction format, I can put my negative in the numerator or in the denominator. If it's in the numerator, I'm going down, right. If it's in the denominator, I'm going up, left. Let's move on to number 7. We're on page 17, number 5. So when visiting Baltimore, Maryland, you need to rent a taxi to get from your hotel to the National Aquarium. The taxi company charges a flat fee of $6 for using the taxi and $2 per mile. write an equation in slope-intercept form that models this situation. So I want an equation that looks like that. Now, if you think about it, b is the value, first of all, what is x? Let's just see. After how many miles? It looks like x is going to equal the number of miles. I did have to find a question before I figured that out. It looks like no matter where I drive, I'm going to get $6. So there's my y-intercept. So that's going to be plus 6. And this is $2 per mile per the x. So y is going to equal $2 times x plus 6. I'm going to just write that a little closer because it looks weird to me. Plus 6. So there is the equation that will model this situation. We're going to now graph the line, and don't forget to label. X is the number of miles, and y equals the total cost. So when I have these types of equations written into slope-intercept, y is normally a total. So I'm going to write total cost on my y-axis, and I will write number of miles on my x-axis. And it says to count by twos on my y-axis, so I'll do that. I'm going to go 0, and I'll write 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, and there's 28. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 26. So I didn't want to write the numbers all up there because it gets a little bit full of numbers. On my x-axis, I can 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That one's well enough. Now, let's graph the line. My x-intercept, or when x equals 0, is right here at 6. So I will pay $6 regardless. If I go 0 miles and I'm sitting in that taxi, I'm paying $6. Now, it looks like I have a slope of 2. So b equals 6 and m equals 2. And I'll put that over 1. So I'm going to go up 2, right 1. So up 2 is right here to 8 over 1. Up 2 to 10 over 1. Up 2 to 12 over 1. Up 2 to 14 over 1. And you can see I got a nice line like this. I did a really good job there. So how many miles when my taxi ride is $26? So here's 26, right? I should be able to use this line and find out that it is 10 miles because this is my total cost of 26. If I use my graph line, I end up with $10. So this line helps you graph the costs. We're going to take a look at one thing on page 18, and it's choosing the most efficient graphing method. So when I see standard form, ax plus by equals c, I should use intercepts. When I see slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, I should use my b and m. And finally, if I see a horizontal or vertical line, I'm going to use a table of values. So what I want you to do now is pause this video and graph these lines using these efficient methods, and we will turn the video back on to see if you got them right. Alrighty, hopefully your lines look a lot like this. I found the x-intercept, which is the value of x when y equals 0. I got x equals 1. Where does it cross the x-axis? At x equals 1. The y-intercept, or the value of y, when x equals 0. And it looks like I got y equals 4. So this is where it crosses the y-axis. In my next one, I got a y-intercept of 3. So I plotted my b here. With my slope, it's a positive 1/2. So that's 1 over 2, which is up right. Or negative 1 over negative 2 is also a positive 1 over 2 down left. Plotted those points. And finally, the table of values shows me that y equals 4. I plotted 3 different points, and voila, horizontal line. Thanks so much.